Hi, I'm Leap. I use he, him.
I'm Eric. I use he, him.
I'm Alvyn. I use he, him.
Hi, I'm Drew. I use he, him.
And I'm Shiny. I use she, her.
And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions and retrieve the treasure of wisdom. And wisdom. Oh my God, Becky. Look at that cast. There's a new group of friends that I am getting to hang out with.
Anarchy.
Hello, listeners. Oh my goodness. I am. So, my dear listeners, fear not. Your normal Insight Check pod friends are alive and well. Maybe. I swear, maybe.
If you follow our demands, you will see them again.
We have hijacked the stream. But actually what we are doing today is something a little bit different, which is why we have basically a whole other set of incredible friends, all of which I'm sure you are familiar with at this point in time. We have SmallFolk cast members on our pod this week because we wanted to do just a SmallFolk chat. Oh my God, we should have done a freaking eat and snack. We should have all brought snacks. We should have eaten. We should have snacked. Oh, Alvyn is...
But then they'd have to pull out our food snacks.
We have to pull out our food snacks. Everybody pull out your food snacks, wink wonk. And...
See, this is what happens when Haley's not here.
Exactly. Send out some love to our good friend Haley. Real life has snatched her from us, and we are trying to battle against real life to snatch her back. So Haley, we love you. We can't wait to see you soon. We miss you. Yeah, we're talking about SmallFolk today. So we have our good friend Eric and Alvyn and Drew and Shiny are all players in our SmallFolk D&D games, which you can find on Twitch. You can hear a few on podcasts because Ember has done them up for us. And you can also find them on our YouTube channel. But we just wanted to have an opportunity to hang out with some cool people, talk D&D, and also talk about like the specific kind of game that we are making here on Insight Check Pod. And one of the things that I always really like to do when we have guests on is basically talk about like how they got into the game itself. We're going to start with you, Eric. You and I have talked about this a little bit, but like you started playing in college, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I started playing with Shadowrun and then moved into Legends of the Five Rings. And then I picked up D&D when Penny Arcade started doing their Acquisitions Incorporated, basically commercials for 4th Ed.
Yeah.
And, I'd always been interested in Dungeons and Dragons. That seemed like that was the reasonable time to jump in.
I'm curious because this is also like a question that I like knowing. What was your first character that you played in a Dungeons and Dragons game, if you remember, like even class, race, or is that too long ago?
No, that's fine.
Everybody remembers their first.
Yeah, even
Wink wonk.
Wink wonk.
Even with 4th Ed coming out, it still took us a while before we actually started playing. So my first character was a Warforged paladin named Cog, who has been Cog has been like revised 3 different times. So I've had 3 different variations on him. In fact, I'm still playing him now in his 3rd variation. And so that was the first paladin I ever played. And I've been hooked on pallies ever since. So
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've made like pixel art of Cog. Like I've seen that on Twitter, right? Yeah. That's cool, man.
If you look hard enough, you can find him. It's not that hard, really. You just have to sift through hundreds upon hundreds of pixel pictures I put up. But yeah, he's in there. He's in there somewhere.
Just hop on the Devenant.
Yeah, he's in. Yeah, there you go.
Alvyn, let's get to you, man. When did you come to the game of Dungeons and Dragons? Like, how'd you get here?
Well, I was always the nerd who wanted to play, but never had friends nerdy enough to play. My intro came also in college, but for me, that was like 2 years ago. Since it was
young.
Yes, I'm the baby of the group. But it came from the podcast of the 4th Ed Penny Arcade. First thing I did was Google D&D podcast. First result, clicked them, and it stuck.
Nice. And what was the first character that you played?
Ooh, it was Yarif, an wood elf ranger. He played all of 2 games before I switched over to a gnome wizard.
Nice. That's awesome. So short-lived. Yarif was his name?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to have to take note of that. I'm gonna write that down just for no reason.
It's never good.
No reason.
It's never good when the DM does this to you.
No.
Yeah, the dangers of podcasting with your DM.
This is, hey, forget about it.
What else? Ranger? Is that right?
And a pixel artist, right? Like you're like you have two people taking notes.
No idea why that's important.
Yeah, of course.
I thought I caused Eric enough problems with the Jerry Crab.
Oh, problems?
It was glorious.
You have to work a lot harder than that to cause me problems, Alvyn.
Oh my God. Okay, so listeners, you've probably figured this out by now, but we are all fans of the C Team, which is kind of where we found each other. And it's cool because it seems like a lot of us have a similar origin story. Like a lot of us have basically found each other in the C Team community from Twitter and like Twitch and the C Team Shadow Council Discord, which listeners, if you haven't found it, I don't know how you found us, but it's around.
I just joined it today, actually.
Yeah, it's huge. But it's like really cool because there's a lot of cool things that you can find in there, like fan art, and there's like a spoiler zone if you want to talk about that, and just a general chat. There's always people in there. It's dope.
You'll find a link to the Discord on our Penny Arcade forum space too.
What?
Because Shadow Council has a Penny Arcade forum page now.
What? We're gonna let me know that because we'll tweet that out when this episode comes out because that's dope. That's incredibly dope. But Drew, you and I met through Twitter, and then you we were doing C Team rap stuff, and then you just started to do like your own bit of thing, and I was like, this is too freaking cool. We gotta get him in. And then you were on the last C Team, you were on Molpy 2, which was freaking fantastic.
Produced like 6 of the tracks.
Yeah.
On Molpy 2. Yeah.
Yeah,
loads
you're
of fun.
a massive reason why that whole thing existed, which is dope. So how did you get to D&D?
I actually got into D&D when I was like 15, and it was kind of like the typical one person had like the player's handbook and then was like, let's play D&D, and we all had no idea what we're doing. It's like we made characters, and then it was like, okay, what do we do now? And then we just never played. And then from that point, I just didn't play until I was, I don't know, like maybe 19. Kind of the same time frame of Iscaneus, when it was like when Penny Arcade really started doing all of that stuff with 4th Ed, and it just kind of was like, this is really cool. I want to play with my friends. And so I ended up going and buying all the books, and then was the DM for a group with my friends.
Nice.
So you started off as a DM. That's interesting.
Yeah, I started as a DM.
Did anybody else start off as a DM? Leap, did you?
No, you know what, to be
Interesting.
honest, some of the first DMing, like it's only been, I'm a relatively new DM. Last year was my first, I would say like max, I've been DMing for 2 years because I ran a small stint of things for my buddies, which I've been playing with for years and years and years. Like I was a player, but then I started playing with the students at work, and then this has been my big playground now, basically.
Okay, well, Drew, I have questions for you, Drew, then once we get into this later on, because I'm curious.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And if I seem distracted at all, it's because Eric has dropped some spoiler art for upcoming projects, which, I'm on the periphery of, and any marbles that I've had, I've now just lost. That is just
Mind-blowing.
So Shiny, you might have to take over here, basically.
Yeah, you gotta start talking.
Well, I didn't start playing D&D until I was in my 20s. I grew up with a bunch of nerds who played, but I had and have severe ADHD, so I didn't have the patience to play with them. Usually I'd end up playing like Mario or something while they played D&D. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s where I finally buckled down and decided to play. My first character was Shiny, Ella Fizzlesprite, O'Muffins, Harpel, Dragon's Bane, the Unstable.
Ooh.
So her name gets
an
longer
amazing name.
as time goes on. Yeah, she's a wild magic forest gnome, wild magic sorcerer forest gnome. She is my OC self-insert into the D&D universe. And she's more of an NPC in my games now, but she's still around.
But like you've gotten a lot of like commissioned art based on Shiny. Like there's been a few people that have done that for you. I know Amy did. I know I've seen a few versions of her on your Twitter.
Yeah,
right?
I'm always getting people to draw Shiny. I am not much of an artist myself. I have a picture I drew of her somewhere that took me like 6 months to finish. But I've got one from Amy where she did her adorable version of Shiny. I've got one from Samurai Duke on Twitter, who's another person that I'm a Patreon supporter of. And I also have my LST art that's from them. They did this glorious thing. So I'm always commissioning them to draw characters of mine. But yeah, Shiny, and I cosplay her at every con, and I'll probably be Shiny at D&D Live a couple weeks from now. So she's still very much part of my life.
Oh my goodness. And like, just so our listeners are aware, like everyone here does like some pretty neat stuff, and Shiny is like a low-key, gigantic, powerful in-person DM. Like you run a bunch of games, but they're all there. We don't see them because you're just doing them for friends at home, right?
Yeah, I've tried to DM online a couple times, but I feel like DMing in person is just where I fit best. I'm very physical. It's hard sometimes for me to explain things over the internet. As it is, I walk around my table the whole time. Even being a player, sitting still for 3 hours is a lot for me. So yeah. I DM in person. I run a good guy game and an evil game. And the evil game has been going on. I mean, I've been writing it for like 4 years now. So it's been around. But I keep talking about wanting to bring a game to the internet, and I am finishing it. I'm working on a Harpel campaign that eventually will be streamed, I think. So it's pending situation.
That's cool. That's really, really cool.
But yeah, I mostly DM in person, and then all my internet activity is with you guys, with our Shadow Council nerds. You know, I dedicated member of the council, so I do a lot of C-Team related activities.
Yeah, you're at the foundation of a lot of cool community-based stuff, I gotta say. So we're lucky, man. Like, we've met a lot of really cool people. I consider myself very lucky because of like a single game, I've gotten to meet like who I consider very important friends of mine, a few of which our listeners are listening to right now, which is pretty freaking dope if you think about it. So, and one of the reasons why we're here, like, this is cool because like, listeners, we have some general conversation, and this will be about SmallFolk, but like I really do want this to just kind of be a conversation with friends of mine about like Dungeons and Dragons in general, but we all do play games together. Like 3 out of the 4 people that I'm talking to all play together in the same Table 2 game. And Shiny is representing our Table 1 game of SmallFolk right now. And at some point, like I've talked about Table 3 before, at some point we're going to have different cast members on from our different tables to talk about what those are like, or their characters and their roles. But I would love to hear, like, you all came to our games in different ways, some of which were because of Twitter conversations, some of which because I just like straight up invited you, some of which because you might have mentioned that you wanted to play. And then that was kind of the initiation. You know, there at one point in time, we started talking about doing Dungeons and Dragons, but the whole adventure setting would be in a magical forest and all of the players would be tiny animals, right? And so what about that space and that idea got you interested in it? And like, how did you get to SmallFolk? What was that story? And why not, since we're talking about it, why don't you talk about like why you picked to play the person that you picked to play? So I'm basically going to try and shut up now and let you guys talk.
So when I was like 13 to 17, I read every single Redwall book that I could get my hands on. So mice with swords and shields was just the coolest thing. So when I heard about this, it was just like, this is absolutely incredible. And I wanted to be a part of it. When it comes to race choice, so I played Dueler, and he's a SmallFolk paladin. I wanted Dueler to kind of be this like really wholesome character that has his own inner demons that he kind of quietly just deals with and is kind of in control of, but is like constantly kind of, you know, he just has to keep track of himself. And so the SmallFolk just seemed like their whole society was just really wholesome. And so it would make sense to be that race.
Yeah, that's a very relatable situation. Having your trying to be wholesome, having your own own stuff to deal with.
You can swear here. This isn't like our stream is a family game, but you can swear here. I'm not going to because, you know, someone will figure out that I'm a teacher and find out my real human name.
I'm
and then
conditioned to not swear in front of Leap now. Or try not to.
That's true. Except there's that terrible ongoing running, not really a joke, but I'm the one who always messes that up on our stream. Everyone's so good. And then I just like drop a bomb or I mention like an inappropriate number. Like it's my fault every freaking time.
I also want to put out there's 2.5 teachers on this pod right now.
Yeah, there are 2.5 teachers on this pod. That's true. I think you count more than half a teacher, Alvyn. You're at school. You've been schooled for it, man. Like,
Technically 60% through my program, so I still have another 2 years.
okay, all right. Well,
2.6%.
yeah.
I was going to say, tell you what, Alvin, I got like halfway through my teaching program. So between the two of us, that means there's 3 teachers here. So
Perfect.
There we go.
there you go.
That's a gaggle of teachers.
That is, what is the grouping of teachers? You know how there's like a murder of crows?
I think it's a syllabus of teachers.
It's syllabus. Syllabus is better.
Syllabus of teachers
Syllabus of teachers. That's genius.
is incredible. I want to get into Dueler a little bit more, but I also want to hear how people, like, I want everyone to be able to talk about how they got here and why they picked to play who they picked to play. So I'm going to just try and like put a pin in that and remember. But Shiny, how did you were a part of like some of the original tweets that we were doing about like maybe wanting to make a SmallFolk game.
Yeah, we had that huge Twitter storm where it got brought up, and then we were like 40 tweets deep, and you guys started actually like coming up with races and stuff. And immediately, I was on board. I am a big fan of cute little animals in D&D, so it's a perfect combination. And originally, I have my goofy dog, Ozzy, who I actually created a character who was very similar to my old man dog. And then as we started to play, I had to put him down, unfortunately, not to make our pod super sad. But so I changed gears and I had this old bat character that was like 100% based on Ozzy, and I just couldn't bring him out yet. So I might bring him out eventually now that I feel a bit better. But I changed gears on you at the last minute and was like, psych! I'm going to play Snail. And I went a totally goofy direction with her instead. And she still has like a long family history and stuff. I've got a good backstory for her. She was definitely meant to be more of a goofy, fun hoarder character than the character I originally built. So I've got a couple small folks in my back pocket over here.
Which is just like absolutely dope. Sorry, I'm writing notes again. Don't pay attention to me.
Yeah, be careful that the DM will kill your characters. You see the other
Deep's list of questions for the pod. Okay, so what's your worst fear? Just the absolute scary.
Don't worry about why.
What is the thing your character is most valuable, and how easy is it to destroy? Like, what's the most precise pinpoint?
How do I?
What would ruin your character?
What's the one thing to totally destroy them as you know them?
Yeah.
But yeah, once I decided on the snail, I mean, everything else revolved around that. The class I picked and everything, the background. I stole a little bit from the crab in Moana, with his decorative shell situation. I built that into her backstory. Her family comes from the coast, and supposedly, I mean, generations ago, that would have been their god. But the lore has been so like ruined over the years of the generations of them traveling from the coast to the valley that now she thinks, well, she doesn't really know much about her god or anything like that. But I kind of based it all on that and kind of just made it goofy from there. And she's a lot of fun.
She is a lot of fun. I'm really excited to like get more opportunities for her to do things, right?
Yeah,
like
she's a weird
Table 1, she is. It's like Table 1 and 2 have had very different experiences because like Table 1 started playing the Gloaming before we went on a stream and decided to like start something new, just like do fresh, right? But like, so the Gloaming is like a party where there's like this chance to explore. And so there's a little bit more, like there's been more pockets of just like things that people can like pick at and like show stuff off a little bit. Whereas like for 2 games, Table 1's been stuck in a tunnel, right? Like, and I mean, there's been like, I'm happy to say that there has been some opportunities for like a little bit of character development and a little bit of like playing around in that space, but it's just been different enough. So I am excited for her to like stretch out a little bit more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, she's kind of a slow build type character. You know, she's kind of a background piece for a lot of the case, because that's just sort of how she's been. She's been traveling by herself for a while, so she's just getting used to being around people again, or others again. But I do like just some of the goofy things that we have come up with, like the fact that she can only move quickly when nobody's looking at her, and that we came up sort of, or you came up with this pseudo predictive ability of hers, where she kind of sometimes she does knows things that she shouldn't, but it's not always helpful information or timely information.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's building as we go, and you know, we come up with more situations for her to make her presence known, but a lot of her presence is just her weird snailiness, you know, off by herself being weird. So
I love her. And I'm excited because you've mentioned the natural healing powers of her goo, but no one's taken you up on it. So I'm really excited.
I want to slime somebody so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a 1990s children's game show.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Ghostbusters.
Eric, how
Yeah.
did you get to SmallFolk, and why did you pick the incredibly gruff and wonderful Beetleborn Paladin that we know and love so much?
I honestly don't remember how I came to SmallFolk because I have a
think I
bad habit
invited
of.
Yeah.
I can't remember because I have a bad habit of inviting myself into things. I've gotten very bold since joining Twitter, and if I see something cool, I'll usually be like, "Hey, is there a spot?" Because I'm like, "What can I do?"
And everyone should be saying yes.
How much does it cost to bribe my way into this? I do remember early on, I was trying to badger you into adding other races. Because
Yeah.
I can't help myself.
Badger.
No, the badger that's Tsunami.
Yeah, that's true.
As far as like choosing a character, I started writing down how many characters I've played in RPGs.
It's a lot.
It's like 9 or 10 characters that have all had like decent amounts of time to build up personalities. So, I mean, I've played a lot of different characters. So I sort of just drew on some personalities that I'd used in the past. And also, Maxie and Robin and Dova got me into watching Deep Space Nine. I really ended up liking Constable Odo a lot. And so I wanted to play someone that's a little bit more of a grouch. And and I knew a little bit about what Drew was doing. And so I kind of wanted to play the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because I thought that would be a good foil.
The comedic timing between the two characters is just, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And also I think that it can help sometimes in particularly large groups if you do have 1 or 2 characters that are a little bit more dry, so that it's not huge personalities all fighting against each other. You can have characters that can sink into the background, and it can sort of be natural for them to not play a part for a while. Because there are a lot of people in our game, and I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to do something.
Yeah, that is a challenge, right? Like, and I mean, our games, we don't play for long by a Dungeons and Dragons standpoint, right? Like our stream itself is about 2 hours, and with intro and breaks, we're playing for like an hour and a half, maybe, right? Like that's not a ton of time for Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it currently fits our schedule. It works for us, and we'll adjust as we go, but it is something to be thoughtful about, right? So, and
I'm used to DMing groups that are like 6 to 7 people large. So
okay, wow.
I've got some experience with how messy that can get to be. So I wanted to have a character that if the plot didn't revolve around him, or if he needed to be quiet for a while to let other people have some time in the limelight, that it would be natural for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's sort of LST's space too.
Yeah,
that's true. You guys both play that kind of character, right? Which is interesting because neither of them are mammals.
I chose a Beetleborn because, honestly, a lot of it was because of the name. Beetleborn are supposed to have, like, sort of a Roman thing going on.
Yep.
And I was like, well, my handle's this made-up bullshit Greek name, so I'll just use that. Because I haven't actually played an Iscaneus before. That handle is not tied to an RPG character. So I was like, well, that works. And I like Greco-Roman history a lot. I was a history major, so I was like, that sounds kind of cool. I'll do that.
Did you notice that, like, the name of your champion was a real Roman person?
I did.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad that didn't go unnoticed. Because
Nope. That was noticed and appreciated.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. So Beetleborn live, like, it's like the Dwarven Mountains, except they are gigantic red oak trees. Right, so their entire kingdoms are within these twin red oaks that are like the passageway entrance to the valley, and so they act as the protectors of the realm, basically. And so each clan has its own tree, and so there's the Hercules, which is what Iscaneus is from, and then there's the Stag clan, which surprisingly enough, both other Beetleborn players in Table 3 are from Stag, so it's cool to just have, like, I should have foreseen that happening, but I didn't for some reason. Like,
well, and Jerica was going to play a Stag if she ever actually played.
Yeah, that's true. She was going to play a Stag wizard, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Alvyn, we still haven't talked to you though about how you got to the game and why you picked. Basically, what I'm going to say is like a great Otter Han Solo character, basically.
I think he would take that as a compliment. Oh, how did I come to SmallFolk? Between stalking Weep on Twitter. Yeah, pretty much that. Stalking Weep on Twitter. Yep.
It's a good way to go.
It is. Well, it worked.
Hey, and I messaged him and I was like, hey, if you ever do something, let me know. I'd be honored to play under you or whatever. And he was like, well, it's going to happen, so just be ready. I'm like, okay.
Man, you say you want to play. It's a hard way to say no, right? Like, I'm not going to say no to that. And it's been incredible, right?
Yeah, but
So attention listeners. Leap has no willpower.
Exactly.
So if you're interested in playing, you can find him at Twitter. It's real easy.
Yeah, Leap a Chesky. Exactly how it sounds.
Basically, look in the comments on anyone's tweets ever, and he's probably praising them for something.
Yeah, we can just get a table. We can get a table 4. We could do a table 5. There's a lot of numbers, guys.
There are a lot of numbers. I know most numbers.
A good thing for a teacher to know numbers.
Yeah, I really like playing this thing. I wish I had more time to play this thing, because then I would play with more people.
And once you run out of English numbers, just do French numbers.
Exactly. Roman numbers, other numbers.
I mean, you're a teacher, right? So what do you do during the summer?
Live, sleep, I guess play Dungeons and Dragons now.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Run small
father my children.
Run way too many SmallFolk games.
You have kids, you don't sleep.
No, I don't. I think like my eyes just stop for a little bit and then I wake up as somewhat and then they open again and I can't tell if I'm tired or not. Like, I don't know.
Coffee and away you go.
Exactly. I had a kid today. They were like, Mr. Levicheski, how many coffees have you had? Because I had like an empty coffee cup in my hand. Like, I had just finished. And I was like, I think I'm on 3 today. And they're like, that's a lot. And I was like, oh, you poor sweet summer child. You don't.
They weren't even espresso.
Yeah, exactly.
Narrator voice. It was 5.
It was fun. It was, yeah.
I have 3 before you wake up.
Yeah. Oh, man. So.
I should probably explain how I got to Aeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we were. Yeah.
I'm good at distracting and getting things off of me. So, guess it goes back to stalking people on Twitter, because I saw Cal's auto for Table 1. I was just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's so cute. And then I just couldn't help but imagine a auto that's a gunslinger that shoots acorns, and it just stuck, and I was like, hey, Leap, could I do this?
And we already established that Leap has no willpower, so he was like, yes, of course.
To be fair, I did read over because it was a it's a
Matt
homebrew.
Musso.
It's a critical role homebrew, right? And so like it has legs.
Yeah.
You know that it's
Quality.
It's got legs, but I did take a read over it. Like, I wanted to know that it wouldn't break the game, but really it's just a game. And so like after a while, it's like, yeah, how can you say no to an otter that's gonna like pocket out 2 guns that just go like, and acorns fly out of them? Like, that's a hard thing to say no to.
Did you want to swing back to Dueler's story? You had said
I do want to swing back to Dueler's story. So I am not the DM. Like, we haven't had, all of me and the players haven't really had those conversations of like getting into everyone's deep rooted backgrounds. We haven't, like, it's not because I didn't want to. That hasn't been a part of our culture of the game, which actually I'd be interested in hearing for you guys how you feel about that. But like, I have noticed, Drew, that you have done a couple hints on Dueler refraining, and like, just there's been a time or two.
Often in the Discord for the games, whenever we're doing the roleplay channel where we all toss in our little stories.
Well, and even in the stream, there was like a minute. I don't want to give it away because but there was a minute.
Dueler has kind of, the way I imagine Dueler is that like he has always been a little bit bigger than life, and he joined up with the army after being trained by his mother to become a paladin, and he kind of went into it thinking, I'm going to be the hero, and then he kind of had a rude awakening where he was the one that survived, but not necessarily the hero.
Right.
And that affected him in like a major way. And so he turned to drinking basically to help him cope. And then he kind of, in his later years, came to realize, actually, this is kind of spoilers, but I'm going to say it. And if it's too spoilery, then it'll get cut out. But
Yep.
he actually was discharged from the army because he was a drunk.
Oh.
And that got found out. And so he got discharged. And so they kind of let him go because he had many years of service. And so it was kind of like a quiet, like, we'll let you leave, but you can't stay.
Right, they let him retire, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. But that was the reason. And then after that, he kind of went back to just being a wandering paladin and kind of found his roots, and then realized that he needed to change, or else it was going to be really bad for him.
Eric, did you know this? Did you know any of this story? Or was this all just secrets?
This is all secrets. No,
This is all secrets.
All right. Yeah. I wasn't sure.
None of us talk to each other about our backstories. It's all
No.
Which makes it really funny when something gets revealed either on stream or like behind the scenes. Everybody just goes wild, like, "What? That's what?"
But let's talk about character moments though, because like Dueler had a really cool one at the end of our last game.
Yeah.
There was Dunami, who is like, I still can't believe we got to play with Dunami. Like, it's just really freaking cool. Because he lives on the entire opposite side of the world that I do. I'm pretty sure
it's like a different planet.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Literally up is down. By just like gravitational.
Yeah, some would say he's down under even.
Some would. This is true.
Word jail.
I gotta go to word jail.
Congratulations. Air's there. He needs a bath. He hasn't been there in a long time.
He's the
No one's
mayor
checked
of
on
Word
him.
Jail.
In a long
He got
time.
put in there years ago. He's just been tweeting from in there.
Dude, him, Callan, Chad.
But like, so Dueler had a moment where our friend Tom, Samotep's character, tried to do no. It was
I think it was
Ooze.
Akka.
Yeah, it was
it was
Akka.
Ooze.
It was Ooze.
Yeah, Ooze did a gust of wind to try and blow these two flying enemies away, which worked, but Dueler crit failed a dex save and so fell into this giant hole that this giant badger character that Dunami played crawled out of, like midstream. And then a sword, which you had only told us had a name like minutes before, clambered down into an infinite darkness, right?
And Ooze felt so bad.
But what was like even better was that like maybe 2 days later, you wrote a fanfic about the sword. And I was like, oh God, no, my feelings. Like,
Yeah, the swords, Dawn's history is like, I don't know, it just kind of struck me. It was on the weekend, and it was the weekend after, like, we recorded we streamed on the Friday, and it was the Saturday or the Sunday after that. And yeah, I just was like, man, this sword, this is an opportunity for this sword to become like a big deal. And so then I was
Wait, you created
wrote
that
something up.
after you lost it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shiny, you sort of created the character on the fly then at the last minute. Were you basically making up all of that on the go then during the game as well?
Oh yeah, any of the flavor that's come out, except for like the stuff that's on her shell, because I knew she had certain things stuck to her shell and that her slime, her long sparkly trail, was part of her healing ability. And potentially poisoning ability. The fact that she can only use her blink or her misty step spells when nobody's looking at her. And that's not a true thing. That's just what she was told growing up. So that's how she thinks it works. Coming up after that, I kind of decided that like her grandmother was the last person who was alive in her family during this trek over. And a lot of this misinformation came from her grandmother. So she'll never really get probably the truth. But there's a lot of weird things about how she thinks her magic works. A lot of that, or like that we decided at some point that she's got a lantern on top of her shell that's functioned by a little
yeah.
spider. And those are all things that we just come up with in the moment because, yeah, she was pretty new to me still.
Sometimes that can be the best, though, right? When you're just in the moment, you're like, I gotta come up with something, so it's this.
Yeah, well, and I was sitting there like, you know, why if, you know, she's slow all the time, why wouldn't she constantly be using her spells to make sure that she keeps up with everybody or she's faster than everybody? And I was like, it'd be funny if it was one of those, you know, I'm invisible as long as nobody looks at me type of situations. So I went with that. But yeah, it is a fun way. People are always giving me a hard time online because I'm a DM that does a lot of planning and I'm not great at improv. So this game has been a bit of a challenge, not a challenge, but an interesting, I guess, challenge for me because I think it's helped with some of that improv.
See, that's really interesting because I knew that you were really like the planning that you put into your games was very meticulous, right? But if you told me that you had a challenge with improv, I would have never thought that because like this whole like precognition thing, like, so the characters were playing basically a version of poker, like a card game that I made up, and like Shiny's Long Sparkly Trail wasn't taking part. She was just like walking around and just watching. And then at some point you were like, you just offhandedly mentioned being like, oh yeah, like I thought that would happen, right? And then that just became like a thing, right? Like, and so we just kind of rolled with it. So as an improv partner, at least, you're like dope for being able to create ideas, right? Create opportunities to improvise. And I feel like the things that you've put like physically on Long Sparkly Trail, but like the planning that you've put into her creates all of those unique opportunities too, right?
Yeah, it definitely helps. And some of it, you know, it might be an internalized thing, or I think I'm bad at improv, but people tell me that I'm not type of situation. But she's such a unique character, and it's definitely not, you know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about why snails behave the way they do. So yeah, a lot of times in game, I'm like, why would I be doing this? Or what would I be doing when I don't have hands to play cards? Like, what would she be doing in this situation? And so instead, she was just making other people uncomfortable looking at their cards. And yeah, it's made a very unique situation for me. And we have such good people to play off of. It makes it much easier.
I want to talk about Alvyn and Iscaneus for a second, because we've gotten to talk about the other two characters. Like, Alvyn, your character, and for the podcast, he's trying to hide himself off of the screen, but they can't see you. They can only hear you. So I'm sorry, buddy. But like, you decided that your character was basically royalty, and you kind of came into the game to being like, yeah, he's a prince, and like something that I've really, or like he's really high up in the cult, in the structure of Riverfolk society. And that was like an oh holy crap moment for me, because to be honest, like I hadn't thought of Riverfolk society in like as deep of a way as some of the other ones, because that was some of Cal's OC, right? So like, tell me where you got that idea from. I'm really interested.
Part of my struggle with creating anything for my characters, I don't want to mess with anything Cal did. Like, this is Cal saying he can create whatever, and I'll just check, it's good, it's great, perfect. I tried to create a character without a tragic backstory, because that tends to be something I do. I tend to fall into that trope. So I was like, you know what? No tragic backstory. And I was like, his parents are going to be dead, but by like old age. So it's like a normal thing. And I was like, what did his parents do? I'm like, you know what? They were traders. They were like artisan type things. I'm like, now that would be neat if it was an artist, like a trader, market kingdoms type thing. All of the power is with the people who sell and buy, and they are the marketers, because, you know, they are the river folks, so they only go so far from the river. So those that bring in things and can get them different things, they have the true power.
That makes sense.
That's interesting.
Cool. I like the idea that the river is such a highway of transportation, that the people that rule the river are the like merchants. It's very cool.
And that's where he got his guns. They were a status symbol of the mark of his father's business as a merchant. And he didn't want to do the whole family business, but he was the only child. And then when his parents eventually died from old age, because no tragic backstories here, he's like, okay, I have to do this. It's a family business. I can't let this go. That's why he started showing up to the gloaming, because it's got to do the family things, got to keep up the family name and stuff. So
yeah, your character's out of a sense of duty, right? Like, which is cool because like Iscaneus is there. He basically was there to wreck someone's day and then get back to his job, which I want to talk to you about because that, to be honest, that whole bit was one of my favorite. Like, I've had a lot of favorite moments, but that was an incredible set of moments of describing, of like figuring out how that was going to play out. But like Alvyn, your character was there out of a sense of purpose because of like keeping the family name and like intentionally speaking wise, like when you were saying like when people were out in the back and like they were just mulling about and you had put yourself in the background. How have you been?
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Small talk from people to people, like, oh, how are the kids type thing.
Yeah, you were playing the politician, right? Like you were doing that, which was like a really interesting character play, right? Like I found that very, very cool. Eric, tell me when you decided that Iscaneus was going to come and find someone who died and then just like have to let people know. And then tell me about his single driven purpose to get this done and then get the hell out of there. Because that's been like, I think, a really fun foil to the whole gloaming itself over the past 2 games.
Well, I thought it'd be kind of amusing if one of the characters that was there didn't want to be there. I mean, I guess for a couple of reasons. Number one, just because it messes with you. I take as a DM, I take a certain amount of sadistic pleasure in sort of putting a DM in a situation where it's like, all right, figure out how this is going to work now. But I also was going to make sure that he had a reason to be there. Mm-hmm. So it's not, all right, I don't want to be here and I'm going to leave right away. So surprise DM, figure out how that's not going to happen. You know, he had to have a reason for being there. But because it was a party and because it was supposed to be like this happy, joyous thing, I imagined most of the characters were probably going to have some kind of a backstory about like, oh, they're really excited to be there. And I just thought it'd be really funny if one of the characters had absolutely no interest in being there at all. You know, sort of just took a Seinfeld approach to the whole thing where it's just like, this is a massive imposition. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to make friends. Crap. Dueler's there. Great. Yep. This has just gotten better and better.
Ran into that jerk that always bothered him all through his career.
Well, and then it worked out because I was trying to write up like a backstory for him. Not much, because unlike Shiny, I improv the crap out of everything. I really like planning. I do an enormous amount of world building in the games that I run, but I do a huge amount of world building. I don't do a huge amount of planning for the individual plot. Because my players are super combative and will ruin anything. Well, no, it's hilarious, is what it is. They will ruin whatever I come up with.
Right.
The D&D game I ran for a couple of years, like they were supposed to be a traveling band of vampire hunters, and they decided instead they wanted to be a traveling band. And so the whole game became the band. No matter what I tried to do with the plot. So I've just kind of learned to roll with it. So I was like, okay, well, let's see. What could I do here? So I thought that was funny. And then it's funny because it's worked out because not only has he showed up at a party he doesn't want to, but like a giant ancient badger tore his way out of the ground and like everything has gone to hell.
Everything has gone to hell.
Mm-hmm. And it's like everything that he just doesn't want to have happening is happening. So I think that's great. And the little bit of discussion we did, because we had a session where we were supposed to get together for the first time we were going to play, and then Leap, because of #family things, had to bow out. And the rest of us ended up staying on and talking for a long time. And we actually found out that like 3 of us all had the same idea, which was that we were not invited.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Most of them ended up changing that. But the more we started talking about it and the more I found out the motivations for the other players for why they were going to be there, again, I just thought it was a nice contrast thing because so many of them were so wholesome. You know, Alvin's character is so wholesome and Haley's character is so wholesome and Iscaneus just doesn't want to be here. I find that really funny for some reason. Just the idea that I refer to him as my grumpy bug. He's just... I'm playing a grumpy bug who just doesn't want to be there.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, originally I was going to be a grumpy bat.
Well, the other thing is...
I like the grump character.
The other thing is I find grumpy characters just really funny to play. I've done it on a couple of occasions. And Cog, my paladin, is not a grouch. He's actually like some cross between like Baymax and Data from Star Trek: The Next Generations, and Leslie Knope. Like,
just for flavor.
Well, no, because he's a planner.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's true.
He's the human resources person on the pirate ship that the party is based out of. So he's like super positive and really nice all the time. And so I was like, I want to play the opposite of that. I want to play someone who's not happy. And it's worked out okay. It's gone okay.
Hello, it's me, Jay, your DM. I use he, him, and that was Insight Check. This episode ran a little bit long, so we're going to have a short second half of this conversation coming at you next week. I hope that you will tune back in to hear more of our friends' thoughts on SmallFolk and playing that game and live streaming and Dungeons & Dragons and things that you enjoy. If you have enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating on iTunes. And as always, we do appreciate Amy T. Falcone and our wonderful friends Vinswept for the use of their music. Never Stand Alone. It's a great song. You should check it out. As always, we're answering your cues from our collective A's. This was Insight Check. So, Lipicheski, the next time you get 5 people and record for an hour and a half, I'm going to kill you. Just wanted you to know. Love you, bud.